I went on a streak of looking to see what types of decks had limitless pages, or what even types of cards had limitless pages. And I clicked on Slaking, was actually surprised to see that I had two results. I ended up finding this cool Terapagos list that was played at Birmingham Regionals by Alessandro Frenda, and I decided to give it a shot, even if it is technically a little bit outdated at this point. I basically played the same list over here, except I swapped out the Lost Vacuum for the Briar because I'm a greedy person, but honestly, like, the Lost Vacuum's probably a bit better. And it's just kind of your standard fare for Terapagos. You get the Bouffalant to help reduce the damage that you're taking on your Terapagoses, on your fans, and you got the 1-1 Slaking line, which can be great offensive pressure late into the game for knocking out things such as a Raging Bolt, or even a Blood Moon or Saluna that you normally would struggle to knock out. It's very low to the ground, very offensive, and to the point, which is what I like about it. It really doesn't try to do anything fancy, and you never feel like you have to set up anything more. You're kind of just setting up your attackers as you go, your one Duskull line, and then you're kind of rolling from there. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment down below, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the So, we are going to get started with the games. I actually managed to get a lot of footage for this one, but I'm keeping it real. It took me a really long time to find a game where Slaking did something, so I just kept winning. And when I win, I most of the time just put the games in the video. Hardly ever do I not include a game I win, unless it's just like a really sad pathetic dunk or the opponent DCs. Those are the only two that I really don't put in. But other than that, generally you're going to see most of the games I've won being put in. And so, I can at least attest that Terapagos is probably a good deck. You don't even need the cloth. But it's nice to help, obviously. But yeah, I mean, we're going against a Toadscruel Ogerpon deck, I think. Which is, at least interesting. I'll give it that much. And what I do kind of like about that deck currently right now is that you do have the Pal Catching set, which I think is a really good item card. And it does grab you your Badoo. And so you're able to get a lot of resources that way. And you have both the Ogerpons, or not the Ogerpons, the Toadscruel's abilities, which are honestly really, really good abilities. One of them prevents your opponent's abilities from affecting them, or any Pokemon that has energy on it. And then the other prevents you from recovering stuff back to your hand with stuff like Night Stretcher, for example. I'm going to go ahead and pop my Dusclops early here, even though I might want to do something else afterwards. And I'm just trying to look and see if I can get anything else going. But also, it takes an energy off the field, and once they evolve into the Toadscruel EX, if any of those Pokemon have energies on them, then I'm really not going to be able to get much value out of it. Which is why I decided to just take my Dusclops kill now, even though it might have been a little presumptuous, just because I felt I wanted to get my value out of it. I kind of hope here that my opponent can't knock me out, as I'm sitting on, quite a few cards in my hand. I didn't pull the Noctowls last turn, being under item block. I just didn't think I was going to get a lot of value out of it, and so I was trying to hold on to Noctowl. But unfortunately, we got Iono down to the bottom and set the 4 cards, which is not great. And there's kind of not a lot of great stuff going on in our hand right now, because we do have double Bouffalant, but that's kind of negligible when our Terapagos is almost dead. But we do get the Ultra Ball, which kind of bails us out here. I was going to talk about the Nest Ball possibly grabbing a Fezandipiti or a Terapagos. So those are both kind of feasible options. One would still allow me to have all my Terrace energies for the following turn, while the other would definitely be, a good backup draw option. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, since I have the Pidgeot available to me, and it's very unlikely my Pidgeot goes down with my opponent only having 2 cards in their hand. I'm just thinking, okay, let me just go ahead and grab the safe card, grab the Terapagos, so I can start activating Noctowls down the line if I need to do so. I'm also thinking that this Noctowl is a little bit greedy. I think I was trying to set up for a Defiance Band or something like that, but I'm ahead on prizes, so that doesn't make a lot of sense here. So I am just kind of scrambling to figure out what I want to do specifically, and so I'm just I'm gonna go ahead and grab a Rare Candy, which I honestly don't think is a good pull. I should probably just pull that different supporter like a Boss's Orders or something, but alas. Also, going for the Prime Catcher on the Fez here is probably the most optimal play I could have done, only because they're so far behind, in terms of like actually being able to get draw. So if they don't have a researcher or an Iono in their hand right now, then they're going to be really cooked for the rest of the game, and they'll have so much to work off of, which is why I want to chase that Fez down anyway. So using the Prime Catcher there is no biggie. Unfortunately, they do reveal the Iono, and I'm not left with a whole lot to fend on my side of the field, unfortunately. And I'm still staring down the Duskull, who's actually like ramping up the serious numbers by this point. So this is going to be doing 208 damage, which is a lot. And they're going to be taking 2 prizes, which does give them, some amount of hand to work off of next turn. Would you top deck the Nest Ball, which is, kind of my saving grace here, because it'll allow me to just Fez and come up with the game plan to do after that. And I've kind of landed into the perfect sequence of cards with the Boss's Orders and the Noctowl here, because I can use that to grab Ultra Ball and a Rare Candy, and just Ultra Ball into Slaking, and then just boss something for game. Terapagos wouldn't be able to get a 2-price knockout here because of the Cricketune on their side buffing the HP of their Pokemon. So I found a unique case for Slaking, I guess. not the matchup I was planning to use Slaking for, but I mean, hey, we take it. Boss's Orders is just gonna come down, take out the Youngapon, and then do 260 damage to it. Both playing kind of funny meme decks here, so kudos to my opponent for scaring the shit out of me. anyways, the rest of the gameplay should be mainly Terapagos focused. And I think like this deck is really good. I was playing a lot of this deck, except I was playing it that was a lot more teched out. I was playing the Tim Franklin list, which was very specialized onto like the 1/1 Regigiga, for example, and a couple other like key tech cards. Like I think I ran a thicker line of Duskull, and there was a lot of Pokemon in the deck, which I think made it feel overwhelming at times. Definitely not the angle that I would always opt to go for in the future, but yeah, it's what we have. I do have an Ultra Ball in my hand, and so I'm just like, I'll keep the double Fan Rotom. If they knock in my Rotom Fan, I can send the Pidgeot, and then hopefully get into Pidgeot or into or Terapagos and Noctowl and start getting the rest of my deck cooking. I do have a Counter Catcher in my hand as well, which will allow me to pull up one of the Urpods and take a knockout against it if my Urpod is unable to do so. Like if I don't have access to my Defiance Band, or if I don't want to use it for any particular reason. So I have a lot of outs. I put also whiffing this Pokemon Catcher here is great for me. Unfortunately, the Iono is also bad, but also like, passable. It's good because my opponent's very unlikely to be able to attack this turn. The only way they'd be able to do so is I don't know, they have to be putting like Glass Trumpet Energy Switch, which definitely sounds like too much. And I have not seen a lot of fan Regibolts on the timeline, so I think we're just going to be ignoring that. We will go ahead and get our turn passed back over to us, and I am able to set on the double turbo energy as well. I'm just going to go ahead and use the Noctowl to try to set the Pidgeot. It'll essentially just give me an extra search throughout the entire game, so I really like having or setting this up as a priority, because this could also grab me a Noctowl later. It can do a bunch of other things. It's all good stuff. But unfortunately, though, our our Feather Ball is prized, so I do have to Ultra Ball the Pidgeot and lose out on 2 Nest Balls, which is kind of fine. It's still not the greatest, so we'll just have to work off of it. I'm trying to hope and see if I can actually get like even more damage to come up here, like an Area 0 into the rest of the stuff I need in order to take a knockout of something here. And I think the Noctowl might just barely push me over that line here, which is good because I'm saying on a bunch of Pokemon, saying on the Slakoth, which I might think is helpful in this matchup for taking out a Raging Bolt that doesn't have a Bravery Charm on it, and a couple other things. I did notice a lot of Raging Bolt on the ladder when I was playing this deck, so it might have just been like this might be like recency bias, but I was kind of regretting putting the Briar in. I'm not even quite sure if I was able to use it in a game, because, it's Briar, right? You're not really going to have a great time trying to get effective value out of it, but it is nice to have. But the Lost Vacuum would also be nice too, because now currently my Slaking can't even knock this out, so I'm going to have to essentially gust around this every single time. I'm also really hoping that by not throwing my Terapagos into the fray here, and him taking out one prize knockout will set us down to even, or set us down to odd prizes, which is really good for me, because this is going to enable my stuff like Counter Catcher, like Defiance Band. So it's just going to give me a lot of options for how I want to address and go through the rest of the game. That said, you know, it's still really terrifying when the opponent has a Fezandipiti. Anyways, here's my opponent not taking a knockout. I always actually sure know why they do that, but maybe they're also just like really terrified of that. They also don't see the value in the kill the Rotom fan. I feel like it's like probably not a bad call because you have Bravery Charms on everything. And so it's very unlikely that I'm actually going to be able to find a regular knockout against, you know, these fucking Ragey Bolts. But, I mean, they could do them. It could also make, like, Iono against them worse, I guess. I don't know. It feels so specifically nitpicky that it's not something I would be bothered about. But, you know, you always don't want to attack there. I mean, I didn't throw my Terapagos in and take the damage just to get the return knockout. So... it is what it is, right? My opponent is actually going to be able to make use of the Area Zero, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted to play the Fan Rotom version that I showed off maybe like a week or two ago. And you know, just being able to overplay your entire field and get maximum value out of everything is really, really good for you. Sada's going to go ahead and draw them a bunch of cards, and they're almost at the bottom of the deck, which is very concerning because now they're like almost to that like edge of all their powerful cards. That said, I believe they've also used a shit ton of their resources. There's like an energy retrieval already, etc., etc. I also respect the opponent for just leaving all the energy on the Raging Bolt here, because it does mean that what's it called? It does mean that like the energy is probably safe because I can't like knock out around it. So that's a little rough, but you know, it is what it is. I'm checking through my deck to make sure that I can actually like do other things here, because I think there's a chance that I'll have to set the Slaking here, and so I'm looking for ways to do that. Unfortunately, I'll have to quick search for the Slaking, as I don't have any more Ultra Balls left, but we could get the double turbo energy on it and everything else set up here. And I'm going to go ahead and throw Boss and Thorton in. Thorton in is just in case I have to go for like Thorton onto my Slakoth to attack with Terapagos, which I really don't want to go for that angle because I likely won't be able to knock out the thing in front of me, but it's still another option there, and I didn't see the research having a lot of value when I have so many cards in my hand right now, and my opponent has already used their Iono in a way that I don't think they'll have an extra one lying around. But yeah, they're also going to set the Koraidon here, but nothing happens, and we are able to win that game very easily. I presume my opponent just gassed out, honestly, which, you know, happens to the best of us. I'm going to go ahead and Nest Ball here for the Terapagos. That way my Noctowls are online in the future. I'm already saying on a Noctowl in my hand, so really I can just grab like 2 Hoothoot and a Pidgey and be perfectly content with that. And then possibly use this Ultra Ball to grab like Pidgeot or another Noctowl or something like that. Also, the Duskull coming out is nice, because I don't know what I'm playing against, but there's a chance that I can go ahead and get Dusknoir out and just completely out-tempo the opponent. The only thing I really don't like about these, about this double turbo energy version of the Terapagos builds, where you're only using DTE, is it makes this Rotom spin attack like way worse, because doing 50 and then wasting one of your like 4 energies in the deck is really rough. Especially this version, because we don't play like a Colress or an Energy Lotto in order to try fish it up. So the only way that you can directly call the double turbo in your hand is by using quick search on Pidgeot. And, you know, we still run 4 copies of it, so it's not unlikely to draw into it, but it still sucks, right? We're going to go ahead and salvage the Pidgeot here. I think I would like to knock out the Charmander this turn, because if I'm able to knock out the Charmander, then their whole setup is going to be stuffed. If they have to Thorton into a Charmander and attack me, like, so be it. But if they're using Thorton, they're probably knocking out my Terapagos in return, because I haven't taken enough prizes for it to knock out. And this is just going to set my opponent really far behind, and give me all the advantage I need to drive this ahead, right? Especially because it doesn't seem like they have a lot going for them currently. They can have a supporter at this point, but it's still, like, rough. It's also neat to see that they are actually playing the Area Zero version build of the deck. I believe this is like Terapagos, so it'll use Terapagos and give you a bunch of Noctowls. But they didn't hit Worm Spin, so they can't get the Hootoots and Noctowls in their hand and get everything going. So this is really, really bad for the opponent here. As now I have Quick Search available again, and I just go ahead and grab a boss if I need to. I'm actually not quite sure why I went for the Noctowl here. I think it was just to grab something else here. Area Zero, yeah, that makes sense. I think grab the Area Zero is fine because it allows me to start establishing the rest of my board. And if I'm able to get Bouffalant down, then Bouffalant could allow me to take a hit. But then I realized, like, oh, I'd be bench locked because I wouldn't have any Terapagos. I wouldn't have the ability to put down another Terapagos until the rest of my field gets cleared. So I'm like, that's probably not a good idea when I probably still want the damage around. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and boss up the Charmander and put them really far behind. And now at this rate, it kind of doesn't matter, like, what I do. If I can knock out a Toon Prize, or like if they just leave a Fezandipiti or a Mew in my face, then I'll be perfectly satisfied because then I can just boss the other one for game. As my opponent's really going to continue to struggle here to get everything set up. Even with the Fez draws, there's just not a whole lot they can do. As they are just, you know, unfortunately having to pass here. I can go ahead and try to establish myself a little bit further here. Just by grabbing a double Turbo Energy, gain the Terapagos out. I think the reason to do this is that if they end up actually knocking my guys out, and they go for like the Pidgeot, I want to just have the extra energies in play, because honestly I can just double attack into a Zard at this rate and not be super concerned with it. Also hit the Dusknoir out of my prizes finally, which is good because this will allow me to one-shot a Charizard if that is the, you know, the route I have to go down. But ultimately, like, there's nothing my opponent can really do here. I mean, they could Thorton the Fez into a Charmander and go to Charizard that way, which would honestly be the best way to, you know, get around the situation, is Thorton attack my Terapagos, knock it out, and then, like, try to Iono me down to a place that I can't really come back from it. But, you know, we just really don't see that coming back. And thanks to the Pal Pad I played earlier, I do have the boss's orders available to just take my last 2 prizes and kill the Fezandipiti all before they get even Charizard out. Really, just having boss and like a solid straight of damage is really nice for capitalizing on these situations where the opponent breaks. And also, this is like the cool part, like the chill part about Terapagos, is you just have so much access to your deck thanks to the Jewel Seeker. And, you know, hitting the Spin Tom turn 1 into, like, double Noctowl and shit like that. So, the deck kind of cruise controls. I was really not thinking extremely hard about what I was doing. I still deck checking a few things here. Just trying to see, like, oh, what I might need or what directions I might need to go in. But once you've kind of found your line and established yourself, I feel like you don't have to adapt all that much. I'm going to go ahead and use the Nest Ball here to grab a... there's a couple things I want to grab here. Like, I really want to set the second Bouffalant because it'll just make my first Terapagos really tanky and prevent me from getting, like, return knocked out very easily. We do have to lose one of our Area Zeros because they put down the Artisan immediately, which is always a bit of a concern. I do wish I knew exactly when to put them down, because I'm so terrified of, like, an Iono coming through at some points. It's like, oh no, I don't know what to do. I do also Ultra Ball for the Pidgeot, which I'm not entirely sure if this is the right play, but I do remember now that I checked for Feather Ball, and Feather Ball was prized again. So, yeah, this is whatever. This is acceptable. We just go ahead and use the Nest Ball, probably grab the second Bouffalant out. And then we can go ahead and quick search for the double Turbo Energy. That way we can attack. I'd really like to establish another Terapagos as soon as possible, but because I put down the Bouffalants, I think I'm safe for a little bit longer, as I could just go ahead and green out with another, with a different supporter here. And also use the Buddy-Buddy Poffins to possibly get more stuff going. I did talk about benchlocking myself while, you know, not having another Terra Pokemon in play, but I think in this case, specifically, it's fine, because my opponent can A, Dusknoir Ball my side of the field, or B, I can Dusknoir Ball myself and clear that up, to a point that I don't think that the opponent is going to be able to knock me out under any circumstances here. So if I'm able to pop my Dusclops / Dusknoir for some additional tempo here, before my opponent actually gets a chance to do it on their own, then that'd be great. I'm also able to just clear my Hoothoot's Noctowls. The only reason you would probably want to keep a Noctowl around is if you're intending to play on Professor Turo to suck it up and get some extra value out of it. But I'm not worried too hard about it. I am realizing now that like my opponent was always going to have the extra the what's it called, the extra Bouffalant knocked out. So I could have maybe just cleared both my Bouffalants and been fine. Left double Noctowl, or killed the Fan, and just had two Noctowls in play. I don't know. It's definitely strange, but I kind of like this a bit better because they don't actually go for my. They aren't going for what's it called. They aren't going for my setup right now, which is my my Dusclops and my Hoothoot, which I'd much prefer to keep alive at this point. And I have a couple options here. I could use Surfer or I could use Turo, and I'm gonna go ahead and go for the insane thing. Just grab the Dusclops instead. Because I have the Turo in my hand, I'm like, this is probably fine. And we'll just set the slack off just in case. I'm going to go ahead and Dusknoir Bomb the active. That way I can try to force a knockout somewhere else. And I'm doing this before I reveal the Turo because I don't want them to send in something being like, oh, I should send my Charmander in, it'll be perfectly safe. Whereas before, if you use the Turo and send the Terapagos out, then they have full knowledge I'm going to be able to attack that turn. But they ended up saying Dunsparce anyways, which is the proper play. Probably. We're just going to go ahead and use the Turo here. I kind of wanted to do something cute and cheeky with the Thorton here, but it's not really in the cards at the moment if I am under the item lock, because I'd have to use like Ultra Ball on a target. I'd want a Thorton back in, and it'd probably just have to be like a Terapagos. Yeah, I'm not really in the best situation where I could be doing stuff like that. They're going to go ahead and counter catcher my Pidgeot, which is a bold thing to start the turn off with, especially when you haven't like evolved in the Charizard yet, and you're just doing all that stuff. But they did have a research and dropped like 6 other supporters. That was a crazy amount of supporters. What the fuck? I don't think I noticed that the first time. But yeah, counter catcher on the Pidgeot kind of makes sense, because if you're playing to win, then you realize you really want to knock out that Pidgeot there. And so if you don't get the knockout that turn, you've pretty much always lost regardless. Even if you counter catcher up a Pokemon with like a 1 retreat cost, I still have other switching options because these decks usually run like a switch, and I haven't revealed my Prime Catcher yet, I believe. So there's definitely like no way my opponent was gonna get out of that situation very easily. So it is what it is. I go ahead and grab a double Pidgey and a Hoothoot. I don't necessarily know what I'm playing against, but this is Raging Bolt, and they happen to knock out my Pidgey turn 1, and that'd be really bad, because I'm sitting on Feather Ball and Rare Candy, which I would really like to use to get everything set up. Also, if it's Raging Bolt, then it's very likely that they're going to Iono me, which is, super, super good. This hand can take me to a lot of places, but the only thing being kind of a dud is the second Pidgey on the field if they don't happen to knock me out. But hey, if they don't get a knockout on me, that's a good thing, I'm pretty sure. Just because it means that, like, my prize mapping becomes, less... Or does it? Does it matter? It kind of doesn't matter. I guess the only thing that matters is that it takes up 1 bench slot, but it can also be used as Thornton fodder. So, honestly, at the end of the day, who cares? My opponent is going to go ahead and energy retrieval 2 energies out, and then they're going to go ahead and use Billowing Thunder after using Crispin, which is honestly really sad and pathetic. Like, they just don't have a whole lot going for them. Unlike me, who has Pidgeot, Rare Candy, double Noctowl ready. The only other unfortunate sad thing here is that I'm going to have to go ahead and quick search for the Terapagos. I could consider using Nest Ball to grab it, but I'd much rather have the Nest Balls in the deck, which is why I'm going to just grab it specifically. Also, now that this is online, I could go ahead and grab the Fezandipiti if I want to, or I could just dig myself out of this hand. But, I think the Fezandipiti angle makes a lot of sense to me, as it'll allow me to see 10 entire cards after this. Unfortunately, I'm also going to, burn the second Noctowl here. I could have possibly saved it, but otherwise, it's it's fine. I'm going to try and set my full bench here so I can actually get a knockout against the Raging Bolt in front of me. But it does seem like we are actually going to barely miss that. So I think this is me playing a bit overly ambitious. And I also think saying this Terapagos might be overly ambitious. But I decided, what's the risk, right? Who cares? My opponent already has kind of a crappy start, so if they're unable to get set up past this point, then whatever, I'll accept the loss. But I'll just go ahead and go for the hit here, because giving up another one prizer doesn't really do anything for me, right? In fact, it takes them off of the odd prizes, which odd prize is slightly better for me, just because it enables my Defiance Band, my counter catcher, and the counter catcher can become very vital later. As my opponent is going to go ahead and Sana and kind of get everything else set up here, including putting a Bravery Charm on the on the Raging Bull, which normally wouldn't matter, but in this case, it kind of does, because it means I can't go with the Rotom and knock it out. I'm not entirely sure if I even would want to commit with the Rotom, but, the fact that I can't do that sucks. Why I am saying that here is a nice, juicy Iono. Take my opponent's hand down to 3 after they've had a really scuffed setup. They have no other Pokemon in play. And I can just go ahead and draw a bunch of cards. So this is kind of like where my comeback is coming through here. I'm going to go ahead and quick search just because I can. And my thought process is to set the Slakoth Slaking. I don't think we get to the point where it matters. But at the end of the game, if I could attack with Slaking, then that'd be best for me, just because it can knock out everything that doesn't have a Bravery Charm on it. And, I don't know, Slaking's cool. It's the whole reason why I'm playing the deck right now. Other than that, I mean, my board state is super solid. There's not really anything else to be commenting on. I do think that the double boof might be a bit much. It's mostly there to help you protect against Manaphy, or help you protect against Radiant Greninja Snipe. But I haven't seen a lot of Radiant Greninja as of late, which might just be me going oh, it's not necessary, or it's out of the meta. But I just haven't been seeing a lot of decks able to utilize it inside of a Badoo meta. But no, we're here now essentially. I could consider running a Manaphy in that slot if I really wanted extra bench protection, because otherwise, setting up the Bouffalants is really hard. Fan Rotom can grab them, but Fan Rotom has to grab Hootoots and other things. So it's very rare you're actually able to get a Bouffalant off of it. So it's okay, what do I actually do? Once again, we're going for this classic strategy. If my opponent is bricked up out of their ass, and we're going to kill the Fezandipiti and prevent them from actually trying to get a little bit further into the game. The Ultra Balls is just going to go ahead and get rid of the research. I don't really need it at this point. It's just overkill. And I'm going to go ahead and Turo, pick up Hoothoot, just to refresh my Noctowls, essentially. Or I could put down another Terapagos. I remember why I did that now. The reason why I wanted another Terapagos down is just to actually enable my one who I have available. So if I get Iono or Roxanne down to an Ultra Ball, the Ultra Ball is still active. And same thing that Pidgeot can grab it as well. So I want to give myself as many possible outs to searching my deck in the future. And so I think using the Turo there is very nice, especially when I'm not doing anything else there. Anyways, my opponent sadly whiffs and dies before I'm able to attack with the Slaking. But I'm letting you know, that could have been a Slaking game. You never know when this guy's going to come in clutch. I do kind of like the Slaking a little bit better than the Blood Moon or Solina. I think the only thing I could give Blood Moon or Solina credit for is that he's really easy to set up. And there's occasional times where he attack for, 0 prizes. But I think having the Slaking there as an additional option is nice, because I have not found any issue actually getting my whole setup going. So I don't think that Blood Moon being more convenient is truly a big benefit. I think having the Slaking, being able to reach different numbers and have a different threshold, is just very, very slightly better, to the point that I'd actually run it over the Ursaluna. Not that Ursaluna is bad. It definitely takes up less deck space too, because then I'd become maybe one less Rare Candy, and then I'd also get rid of the Slaking and replace the Slakoth with Blood Moon. So it's perfectly fine. You can definitely go in that angle. And the opponent's dead. Oops. I don't know what the fuck they were playing. They were playing some type of Drillbur deck, but it's dead now, so we don't have to worry about it. I do think the Briar is probably really bad in this deck, because part of your end game is winning with Slaking, to the point that I don't think the Briar is gonna manage to fix a lot of your matchups. Sure, it can help, but it's still it's just awkward. I really don't have too much else to say about it. I'm conflicted on grabbing double Noctowl in this situation, only because I know my opponent's deck is, wanting to create Iono as much as possible. I don't remember how many copies of that card they play, but I think it's a higher amount. I want to say it's like 3 or 4. So, there's kind of a high likelihood that I actually did something against me, which would have sucked. Anyways, they ought to be the Pidgeot Rare Candy, so honestly, who gives a shit? And I'm gonna go ahead and get the Bouffalant set up as well. And the Bouffalant, actually kind of helps in this matchup, because it's gonna fuck with their math quite a bit. On a deck that's already kind of math intensive. So if they're not good at pulling up a calculator, then they can fuck up and miss the KO here. But also, I just like having the extra security here. It just makes me feel just a tiny bit safer. I'm gonna go ahead and use the Noctowl to try and establish a bit more onto the field. Mostly getting my second Terapagos up, so it is ready to be charged up and go next turn. This is not a matchup where I think Slaking is particularly helpful, especially if they play the Turo, because there's a situation where they Turo up the Gardevoir, and then there's just nothing else they can do after that. So, it is what it is. But, we're here now. And, we're also, scaling the opponent a little bit, because they've had a really hard time actually getting set up here. I mean, they use Slap on fucking Screamtail in order to put damage on me. And they also went ahead and got a TM Evo off the Arvin, only to not TM Evo. Really going for the desperate plays here and relying on the Gardevoir here. And this is kind of one of those few situations where Slaking can almost be good. Unfortunately, Slaking isn't going to knock it out, but it does have a lot of HP, which is kind of relevant. I thought it was just going to go ahead and struggle to set up more, get the Monkey Dory, go to Rare Greninja, and just desperately try to make this situation not awful. The Monkey Dory having a dark energy on it is at least a little bit scary, just because it's going to continue to threaten chip damage on my field. So for example, it'd be if I don't evolve and use my Dusclops, then they get to knock it out next turn for a prize. Or they could just put it on my Pidgeot. I don't know what math that fixes, but I mean, they could do that. That's fine. I don't have much else to say. We do get the double turbo energy, which is nice. It means I don't have to think about it too much. And then I'm just going to go ahead and rip the Noctowl here. I think the Noctowl is trying to grab me Ultra Ball Rare Candy. That way I could go ahead and just set up the Dusknoir and pop the Monkey Dory down. I think I was thinking about popping the Greninja in my face, possibly, and then letting them choose who to set up in. But if there is a better option, then I don't want them to have it. And I think I'd rather just isolate the Gardevoir as much as possible, especially as it has to put damage on South Retreat, putting it even closer into range for me to just, knock it out naturally. I also don't have my Slakoth around, unless it's in my hand. It's in my hand. Oops. I'm just going to go ahead and whiff on the Nest Ball, which is probably not that great, especially because I'm just going to end up Night Stretching for the Duskull anyway, so it is what it is. The only thing that's kind of sad about my current board state is I'm extremely bench locked. I don't have a lot of guys that do anything, as the Bouffalants are bench sitters, the Noctowls are already used, the Fan Rotom's really bad at this point. So my board state's not in a great position, and the only thing I'm holding on to is my current lead, and the Pidgeot, of course. Having a Pidgeot's always a good call. My opponent is going to go ahead and go to Fluttermane, which isn't going to change much. The only thing that they could maybe do with this is, Counter Catcher, boss up a Run Fan, and take a knockout that way. Oh, they gave it boss up the Fan, they'd have to boss up the Duskull. Which is fine, because, if they were going to do that, Duskull is the target. But no, they're going to go for my Bouffalant, which I also don't understand this play at all. I don't know what my opponent is doing. Now, I just get to, figure out what support I want to use. I have the option between, Surfer, Prime Catcher. I think I just used my Turo, so that's not available. I'm just going to go ahead and burn the Surfer. The Surfer has been fine. I think I used it to draw cards one game, and it was okay. But Surfer could also just be a switch, unless if you're really scared of Bidoof. In which case, if you're terrified of Bidoof, then you can just go ahead and use Surfer. Anyways, that was the last match. My opponent just gave up after that. I'm gonna go ahead and go to bed. You guys have a good night.